Alright, طيب بسم الله. الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. Like we were in the middle of saying, Ya Ma'ashal Ikhwa, in regards to al-ad'iyah or supplication, like we said, there's a lot of mannerisms that one needs to observe, especially in supplication, that a lot of people are ignorant of because they do not take the time out to learn. A lot of mannerisms, a lot of adab. There's a lot. Some of those mannerisms are here in Kitaab At-Tawheed. Some of them. Some of them are here in this book. But like we said, some of the Salaf, which we'll talk about maybe when we have some time, as we said, some of the mannerisms are, for example, number one, at the head of all mannerisms, that dua is only for Allah. The supplication of worship is only for Allah subhanahu jalla fil ula. That's the greatest of all adab. Rather, is the greatest adab, is the greatest mannerism of supplication. Is that supposed to be sincerely, only for Allah and directed to Him alone. And as we know, Ya Ma'ashal Ikhwa, for a person that makes dua to other than Allah, which will render his Islam null and void. And he will be from those who are the polytheists. For raising your hands and asking other than Allah, and that worship will nullify one's Islam. Because it's polytheism, as we know. As we said also likewise from the adab of dua, just a little bit of it, because we're going to continue in the book. As we just mentioned and said, is that one, that he invokes Allah by His names or His attributes, or by His name, by one of either His name or his different names, or by His attributes. Asking Allah by His mercy, as that's permissible. Also asking Him, like we said, by His attributes. I ask you by your face, or I ask you by the one who created the heavens and the earth. All those affairs, like we said, is permissible in supplication. And also asking Allah by a name in which is suitable for what you're asking Him. Like for example, O Allah, you say Ar-Razzaaq urzuqni. O Allah, the one who sustains and gives maintains and sustains and gives sustenance. Then expand my wealth. If a person would say, O Ghafoor, the All-Forgiver, expand my wealth. Because the name is not suitable for what you're asking. So that's what we're explaining. You would say, O Allah, Ar-Razzaaq urzuqni malan, or the one who's the all-provider or the all-sustainer, provide me with wealth, or expand my wealth. Or the all-forgiving, forgive my sins. A person wouldn't say, O Rahim, expand my wealth. You get what I'm saying? So we said from the adab of du'as to ask Allah by name, which is suitable for what you're asking, or the supplication, for that particular supplication which you're what? Asking. Also from the adab of du'a, like we said, is to also ask Allah ta'ala by the method that we just mentioned. From what we said, by one, being serious, having surety that Allah will answer it. Also, being at surety that Allah ta'ala is going to answer it. Having that ilhah. Also likewise, constantly having that insistent upon Him answering it. Also from the adab of dua. Well, a person, like we said, the setup we mentioned a couple of minutes ago before the salah, he says, أنا أعرف الدعاء المستجاب. He says, إذا خشع قلبي ودمعت عيناي ولانت جوارحي وعظم إلحاحي أعرف أن الدعاء مستجاب. That if my heart, that it becomes in a state of where it's lowered, where it's being humbled, and my eyes fill with tears, and my limbs become soft. And he says, وَعَظُمَ إِلْحَاحِ, meaning what I'm being really insistent upon, it being what? Answered. He says, I know that dua is what? It will be answered, that Allah ta'ala will answer. There's other adab, that we're not going to talk about. It's going to come in Kitaab At-Tawheed, don't worry. From those adab is, like we said, transgressing in dua, asking, O Allah, as it said, because in the hadith of Abdullah ibn Mughaffal, when he heard his son saying, O Allah, as'aluka القصر الأبيض عن يمين الجنة إذا دخلته وإذا دخلتها قال يا بني سل الله الجنة وتعوذ به من النار فإني سمعت من النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول سيكون في أمتي مَن يَعْتَدِي فِي الدُّعَاءِ وَالطَّهُورِ. Where Abdullah ibn Mughaffal, he heard his son saying, "Oh Allah, I ask you for a white castle in paradise if I was on the right side of paradise if I enter it. Oh Allah, I ask you for a qasr al-abyad, a white castle on the right side of paradise if I was to enter it." So Abdullah ibn Mughaffal said to him, he says, "Oh my son, ask Allah for paradise to seek refuge in Allah from hell. For verily I heard from the Messenger of Allah, he said there's going to be amongst his ummah or his nation who will transgress in dua and in purification." They'll transgress in supplication and purification. So all those type of supplications, oh Allah, I ask you to, if you enter me in paradise, or enter me in paradise, allow me to ride on 20,000 angels with the wings that fill up paradise. Oh Allah, give me hurin een, the one that's tall, one that's short, one that has this, one that has light skin, one that's dark skin, one with long legs, one with short legs, one with this. Or I ask, oh Allah, all these consider what? If I was to enter paradise, give me 10 Mercedes Benz with flawless leather seats and flawless leather interior. All this is called transgressing in dua. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? It's transgressing in dua. Also, likewise, from another thing that's considered transgressing dua that a lot of people don't know about is singing dua. Singing dua, especially in the qunut, which is done in Ramadan. A lot of people don't know that's transgressing in dua. As our great Fadilatul Wadi, Shaykh Ubayd al-Jabiri, the great al-Alami, he gave a good research in this matter. That from the transgression of dua is singing qunut. He said people think that that's a reason for dua. He said that's a reason for dua not being answered. Is singing it. We're having a melodious tone in dua. And from the arguments that they say is, when you make dua in sujood, when you make dua amongst yourself, if you're in the if you're in the corner right now, you make a dua to Allah, do you say, Ya Allah, inni as'aluka ya Allah, and tastajiba li dua? Nobody does that. Do you do that in your salat when you make a sujood? When you're in sujood, Ya Allah, irhamni, Ya Allah, irhamni, wa inni ghafartu wa ana waqa'tu fi dhulmi, faghfir li dhunubi jami'a. Nobody does that. You understand, everyone? Rather, that would be something that's extremely strange. So that's in the salah. He said, well, what about even in witr? That's the reason why you'll find from the greatest and the strongest opinions that a person does not make a melodious tone in supplication in witr, especially in Ramadan, because they consider that transgression in dua. Now, you notice this to show you how the Salafiyun are upon with the truth, because how many people know from the Muslims that do this? Thousands. You understand, everyone? Is it clear? So in this regard, these are adab and dua. These are adab and dua. Also from adab and dua, we come in Kitaab At-Tawheed, not to make condition upon Allah. Oh Allah, forgive me if you will. Oh Allah, forgive me if you will. Like it's as if something is holding Allah back from what? Forgiving you. Something's holding him back. If you will. La. That's also from the adab and dua. There's a lot of adab in which, like we said, is not the time, which we'll speak about it later. We'll speak about it later. Also, from the adab of dua is also likewise what we just mentioned, that we said with the great Imam al-Hasan al-Basri. What we say last class? The Hasan al-Basri mentioned, he said, "Baina dua is-sirri wal-alani is-sab'una ضِعْفًا." Between supplication when you do in secret, meaning that nobody can hear your voice, and supplication that's done audibly, meaning in a manner in which one can hear it. He says the difference between that type and that one is 70 ضِعْفًا, 70 levels. He says that لَقَدْ كَانَ الْمُسْلِمُونَ الْأَوَّالِ يَجْتَهِدُونَ فِي الدُّعَاءِ. He said حتى لا يكاد يسمع منهم إلا حتى لا يكاد منهم ويسمع منهم صوت وإن كان إلا همسا بينهم وبين دعاء ربهم وبينهم وبين دعاء ربهم. He says, verily the Muslimun are the first that they used to be very diligent in making dua to Allah. He says until it was not heard from them, he said wasn't heard from them a voice, and if it was just a mere whisper between them and their Lord. So that's also from the adab of dua. So one shouldn't think that if I make it loud, then Allah will hear me. No, Allah will hear you if you make it like this in your mouth. Allah's going to hear it. Allah will hear it and know exactly what you're asking. Rather, this will manifest in the secret. When one does supplication in secret, it will manifest what, everyone? It will manifest the i'tiqad that you know He's what? All hearing. So now you're acknowledging certain sifat of Allah. So you're adding something benefit of what is extra when you do it in what? In secret. So these are from the mannerisms of dua, which a lot of people are heedless of, and a lot of Muslims are inadvertent of to let one know the importance of ilm, and not going along with the trends and the winds and going along with what people do. That's why you'll find that Ahl Sunnah was Salafiyeen, they are the closest ones, rather they are the closest to Allah, because they traverse the path of what is correct to the best of their ability, and they follow the evidence and proof based upon how the Salaf practiced the religion. In regards to what you'll find of the Muslims now in these latter days, especially these days, committing and doing acts in which you'll find that the other Muslims behind them just follow along with it. They don't ask, they don't look around, they don't do research, they don't do anything. Rather, they suffice by, well, what? So-and-so said, and that's it. Or so-and-so Muslims, well, all the Muslims are doing it, so we'll do it. Even though it could be what? The most incorrect affairs. And like we said, singing in dua is a reason for deprivation of the dua being what? Answered. Because it's a form of transgression in it. There's a lot of people don't know these days. And you see thousands and thousands of Muslims doing it. But you see how a person can be deluded and bewildered, or he can be fooled just because he's fooled by the what? The numbers. And we know that Allah Ta'ala said clearly in His book, if He was to obey the majority of the people on the earth, they will take you away from the path of Allah. So the numbers are not what's considered, but rather it's the truth and the evidence and proofs that aids them. طيب يا معشر الإخوة. So all this is to show what? The importance of dua. And also likewise, as only for Allah. There's an affair I wanted to speak about also likewise. Ibn al-Qayyim also says, and we were mentioned, let's return back to salah for a second. Before I talk about what I wanted to speak about in the next ayah or the next verse. If you look in your books, of course we're talking about salah. Dua, excuse me. As we know, the word salah linguistically means dua. The word salah. A lot of people don't know that. Salah, as we know, formally is prayer. Salah linguistically in the Arabic language means dua. Yes, it means dua. A lot of people don't know that. Or some people don't know that. Not a lot. Some people. So the meaning of what? Of salah means dua. It means dua. Number one, before I talk about this briefly, I wanted to speak about something. You'll find that the people of the past, especially of deviance, or the people that's upon innovation, that they used to break the language down into what? Real and figurative. Real and figurative, or majaz, or haqiqah. Real or figurative meanings. As we know, as what is correct, the correct position is that there's no such thing as figurative meanings. They don't exist. They don't exist. They don't exist. They don't exist not in Kitaab and Sunnah, nor do they exist linguistically. As this type of ideology we'll speak about in certain affairs when we have the time, as affairs of what they call majaz or figurative meanings, was originally established by the Greeks. It was a philosophical term that was made by the philosophers or the so-called thinkers such as Plato and Aristotle and all those other people who are so-called philosophers. They started from the Greeks initially, the word or breaking language down into real and figurative. It came from them. You wouldn't be surprised of how a lot of things that we believe we thought was correct before we were Muslim, all of it is ideologies of the Greeks, Greek mythology that's in it. For example, the sun existing and the planets revolving around it. A lot of people don't know that the philosophers came with that ideology. As what is correct is that the sun moves. The sun moves. Yes, because that's what Allah said in this book. The sun moves. But however, what a person would say, well, why you say this? It's philosophical influence or idol worship influence, because the idol worshippers used to glorify the sun. So they put the sun in the middle to glorify it, and everything revolves around it. So the people adopted that custom, which is of ideology, of glorifying the sun, because some of the philosophers or some of the people before them, before they adopted this methodology, they were they were worshipers of the sun. They used to worship the sun. It was something great. They used to look bright and hot. So then Shaitan, of course, made them adopt a way that something, the sun is great. It's huge, big, it's magnificent. So they took the sun, put it in the middle, made that the biggest object. Why? Because they used to worship it. And everything else is small, revolving around it. We used to believe this when we were little kids. All of that is paganistic type of influences. And a lot of things that we perceive and a lot of things we believe, but we don't know. But if you study the background of where it came from initially, that's where it was brought from. Even these adopted meanings of what? Figurative and real meanings in speech. As you'll find that Shaykhul Islam denies it totally. Figurative meanings or real meanings. They don't exist. Rather, you'll find that Ibn al-Qayyim says figurative meanings is a taghut. Figurative meanings is taghuti. It's a taghut. For example, a person would say, you also find the great Imam Shaykh Uthaymeen especially, saying that figurative meanings don't exist in Kitaab and Sunnah. They don't exist. So any person will come to you, especially from the Asha'ira, especially in these days of times from the deviant sects, they'll try to say to you, oh, that's figurative. Know for sure that type of speech is the speech of those who are upon falsehood. In order to what? To cause confusion and doubt in your belief system. How is this connected with Kitaab At-Tawheed? Or how is it relevant to what we're speaking about now? Listen to what Ibn al-Qayyim says. He says, in regards to Salah, he says, Salah, of course, he was talking about how Salah covers both of what we just mentioned. Both categories of what? Dua al-ibadah and as dua what? Mas'ala. But initially we know Salah is what type of dua is it, everyone? Dua al-ibadah. Dua al-ibadah. Which necessitates what, everyone? Dua al-masala. Right. طيب. Now, listen to this. Of course we know dua, we said linguistically in the Arabic language, what does it mean, everyone? What does it mean? It means dua. Salat means what? Dua. طيب. This is what Ibn al-Qayyim mentions quickly. Because a person would say, well, where am I going with this? Just listen. He says, يتناول نوع الدعاء بكل منهما فصلت الآية قيل أعطيه إذا سألني وقيل أثيبه إذا عبدني وليس هذا من استعمال اللفظ في حقيقته ومجازه. Now listen what he goes on to say. I'm going to just read it. He says both types are what is applied here, of course, with salah. He says it doesn't matter as dua al-ibadah, dua al-masala, as far as in regards to the prayer, of course. Because we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, I will give if you ask me, of course, or I will give you the reward if you worship me. So Ibn al-Qayyim goes on to talk about the salat. Keep in mind, we said salat means dua, linguistically. So this is what he goes on to say. وَلَيْسَ هَذَا مِسْتِعْمَالِ اللَّفْظِ فِي حَقِيقَتِهِ وَمَجَازِهِ. He said this is not the usage of the word. Now don't write anything down. I want you to understand what the point he's trying to make here. Because he's exactly saying in an indirect way what I mentioned. He also says it frankly in other places. Frankly, clear. Because he calls figurative meanings taghut. Anyway. He says وَلَيْسَ هَذَا مِسْتِعْمَالِ اللَّفْظِ فِي حَقِيقَتِهِ وَمَجَازِهِ بل هذا استعماله في حقيقته الواحدة المتضمنة للأمرين جميعا. He says, however, he said the wording of salah, he says it's not the actual form or the meaning of what is being applied here in reality or figuratively speaking. Listen what he goes on to say. Just listen. He said rather its usage of it is truly in reality, which contains both affairs of dua, both of them. This is what he goes on to say. He says, هذا يأتي في مسألة الصلاة. Basically what he's saying is, of course, salat meaning dua, which is clear. Which also that it also contains at the same time both categories. So a person should think in his mind that it should be called, salat should be called in actuality what? Dua. That's what a person would think. Right? So he's saying the word salat now has been removed from its true meaning and used so-called figuratively. This is what some people would say, right? Then Ibn al-Qayyim rejects this notion. He said that's incorrect. All of it. He said rather every usage of the word salah, it being dua, is still what? Upon its true meaning. Don't try to break it down and say, no, we're figuratively it means dua. No. He said all of it is true in its meaning, depending on the context of the word, of how you used it in what sentence. Because here, when they hear the word salah, of course, we say that it does mean what? Means prayer, and it also what? It likewise also means what? Supplication. So there's no use to now. You don't have to break it down and say, oh, figuratively speaking, it means such and such. Or no, salat does mean dua, but figuratively it was used in another instance. That's why it's called salat instead of dua. No. Based upon the context, we understand that what? Salah is prayer, and at the same time it's also understood that it's what? It's supplication, whether it be dua al-ibadah or dua al-masala. The point is, Ibn al-Qayyim here is trying to refute the notion that speech is broken down to what? Figurative or reality or real so-called meanings, as they say. For example, figurative meanings like so-and-so, let's just say Muhammad, one of the brothers. He's a big person. When he comes in, he's big, he's tall, he's strong. So instead of me saying Muhammad into the room, I say, for example, a ferocious lion into the room. They say you just said something figurative, because in actuality, he's not a lion. He's not a ferocious beast. He's not big. He's not an animal. So they say that's figurative. Shaykh al-Islam rejects all that. He says, if a person right now comes, let's just say now, a ferocious lion just entered the room. You understand that what I said, based upon the context of the word, that we know and understand that he's someone big, tall, and strong. Based upon the context. You know what I'm trying, what I'm intended. I don't have to break it down and say, no, I'm figuratively speaking, because truly he's not an animal. No. When we say that what? He's a ferocious lion, just walked in this room, we understand that he's tall, he's strong, in a manner of how I use the context of the word. So I don't have to now break this games and break it down and say, no, I'm figuratively speaking, or I'm saying a real true meaning by just saying his name, Muhammad, into the room, and he's big, strong, and tall. He said all of this is what is rejected. And this is from the asalib and the patterns of the people of falsehood of the past that they tried to use. And if I was to bring some of the statements that they bring, a so-called saying, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't have real hands. Those type of terms that are used in the Quran are figurative. They're not real. So they're figuratively speaking. So it's not real hands. They're figurative hands because they're not real. So you see why I'm going where I'm going with this. Because you'll find that this type of matter had crept inside the aqeed of the Muslims. Whereas now they started to reject the notion that Allah truly has a face. That's figurative with them. Or with the Asha'ira or the Mu'tazila, that the face is not a true face, that's only figurative, that's not real. Or the hands, that's just figurative, that's not true hands. Or that Allah's fingers is not true fingers, they are really true, that's only figurative. That's metaphoric or figurative type speech. You'll find that even Shaykh Uthaymeen mentioned said, this type of manner or this type of pattern necessitates that what? If I negate something, then it becomes what? It becomes correct. There's nothing in Kitaab and Sunnah that if we took it away or took it out, that it becomes correct. Especially in regards to the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can't now say that the face of Allah, that's only figurative, ya akhi. That's not real. That means something else. So you'll find that Ibn al-Qayyim rejected the reason why a lot of those from the ummah of the past had went astray because of now breaking down language into this type of or these two type of categories, figurative or what? Or really, truly reality, what was considered real, as they say. All of that's negated. Linguistically and also likewise what? In Kitaab and Sunnah. All of it is negated. And that is the strongest opinion, even what I heard with the great Imam, Shaykh Rabi' ibn Hadi al-Madkhali, hafidhullah. Even when I attended a lecture of his, I think it was in Medina, when he came, that was when he was living in Mecca. Before he came to Medina, he gave a lecture, about 2003, 2004. And he was negating this. He said there's no such thing as majaz. Figurative meanings don't exist. Not in Kitab, not in Sunnah, not even in the Lugha. Not even in the Arabic language. They don't exist. That was something that was brought by the Greeks. It was something that was that was derived and made by them to cause confusion, in which you'll find that the Muslims adopted it from the philosophers, and they tried to incorporate it in the language, which came as a reason for the denial of the names and the attributes of Allah, and twisting and altering it and warping its meanings. Then they tried to what? Then you can now, if you open up this door of so-called figurative or real meanings, it will cause a bunch of games. I wish I don't have time to break down this meaning. But anyway, what Ibn al-Qayyim is saying here, he's rejecting, I don't have to just suffice with this. The point we're trying to make everything concise is, there is no figurative meanings, not in what? Not in Kitaab, nor in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, not even in language. Regardless of what has been instilled in your minds in school. I don't care what they say in schools and what they educated and brainwashed a lot of us, in which walillahi alhamdulillah minna, as we increase in knowledge, you'll find that a lot of things we used to believe was all what? There's a lot of things that we used to believe was incorrect. Especially about the solar system and astronomy, what we used to learn. From the time we were young up to the time when we became Muslim up to now, a lot of us, we used to all believe that the sun is what? Still, and all the planets revolve around it. That was what we were brought up on. Well, that's what we were brought up upon. That's incorrect. Allah himself has said that the sun moves. The sun moves. But however, the ideology and the belief that the sun is bigger than everything and all the other stars revolve around it in that particular solar system, that was something that was that initially came from the people of polytheism. Don't forget that. The people of the fire worship, or the worshippers of the sun. Because like we said, a lot of the philosophers, as we know, like Aristotle, and a lot of them were from what, everyone? From the Greeks. And we know the Greeks were heavily in what, everyone? Polytheism. Those Greek thinkers and philosophers. So now when they adopted, like we said, the sun is bigger than everything in the solar system, and all the planets revolved around it, that was from the ideologies of them worshiping the sun. Then they incorporated it and made a solar system out of it, where now scientists adopted the ways of polytheism, and pagans and philosophers brought it in, and they put it in the middle and made all the other stars what? Go around it as if it's glorifying the sun. And the sun is the main thing being glorified, because it came from those who were what? Sun worshippers. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? طيب. The next ayah you'll find, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, you'll find in the book, we'll speak about this for 10 minutes and we'll stop. Read the next ayah. This ayah is real important. The next ayah in your book. This is Surah An-Naml. Surah An-Naml, the last ayah that's mentioned in the chapter. Naml. They said Nahaw. Naml. Who's the one who answers? The Muttar, the one who's in those severe, hard circumstances, and he makes dua to him, and he removes the evil, and he makes you successors in the earth. Is there a deity along with Allah? Very little do you take heed. طيب. Surah An-Naml, ayah number what? 62. It's in your books. Naml. It's wrong. Naml. It's wrong. N-A-M-L. That's right. Naml. Naml. Mim lam. N-A-M-L. Naml. Okay, it's corrected. Naml. Come on. We don't have to argue over the name. Naml. So to Naml. Ayah number 62. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, who's the one that answered the muttar, responds to the desperate one? He's in a severe, hard, adverse circumstance. He's facing adversity. He calls upon him, he removes the evil. And he makes you inheritors or successors in the earth. Is there a deity along with Allah? Very little do you take heed, or little do you remember. طيب. These ayat, which is a Surah An-Naml, go back a little bit. If you go, like I said, everyone, you know, from our habit that we do, is to go back in the ayats a little bit, or read in the ayats that come after that. So it will bring you a lot more clarity. Listen to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in His book. In Surah An-Naml, ayat number 60. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in His book, أَمَّنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَأَنزَلَ لَكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً فَأَنبَتْنَا بِهِ حَدَائِقَ ذَاتَ بَهْجَةٍ مَا كَانَ لَكُمْ أَن تُنبِتُوا شَجَرَهَا أَإِلَٰهٌ مَّعَ اللَّهِ بَلْ هُمْ قَوْمٌ يَعْدِلُونَ. I want everyone to be attentive of what I'm teaching them and apply all the rules and the qawa'id and the principles I've been teaching Kitaab At-Tawheed for the past 6 months. And once you read, because what we've given everyone is the keys to unlock. Why Allah Ta'ala mentioned this type of pattern in His book? Once you now, of what I've been teaching, you'll start to see now, oh, it makes sense. Wow. Then once you now know the qa'idah or the principles and you know the reasons of why Allah Ta'ala mentioned this in this manner, the more now your iman increases because you understand why. Listen to the content. As for the one who created the heavens and the earth, and He sent for you from the heavens the rain, and He brought forth that plantation or that agriculture, and those gardens that are joyful and delightful to look at. And it was not for you to bring forth any of the plants or the trees. Is there deity along with Allah that deserves to be worshipped? Rather, they are people who make the creation equal with Allah. Listen what it goes on to say. As for who is the one that made the earth a stable ground, and placed within it rivers, and make for it firmly. Make the rivers and made for it firmly, meaning for the earth, and set the mountains and placed between them the two seas as a barrier. Is there a deity alone that deserves to be worshipped along with Allah? But most of them do not know. أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ وَيَجْعَلَكُمْ خُلَفَاءَ الْأَرْضِ أَإِلَٰهٌ مَّعَ اللَّهِ قَلِيلًا مَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. As for the one who responds to the desperate one, or the one facing adversity or hardship, when He calls upon him and He removes the evil, He makes you inheritors of the earth. He says, is there a deity that deserves to be worshipped along with Allah? Very little do you take heed. Is He not the one that guides you during the darkness of the sea and the lands? And He sends that wind as glad tidings will come after it, of course, after the sadness and the grief and the lost hope came, or they became hopeless. And He gave the glad tidings of the wind as from the mercy from Him. Is there a deity along with Allah? How high is He raised above what they said as partners? Who is the one that starts the creation? Then He will repeat it again. Who is the one that gives you sustenance from the heavens and the earth? Is there a deity that deserves to be worshipped along with Allah? Hand your proof if you're truthful. What do you think of this? From all what I taught everyone for the past 6 months, tell me right now, all this or what I just mentioned here in these ayats. Come on, brothers and sisters, please get this answer right, because I've been repeating this 30 times. You get this answer right, I'm gonna be irritated. Because I repeated about 20 or 30 times. And then people will say, AbdurRazzaaq, you always want to repeat. This is the reason why I repeat. Huh? What did you hear in those ayats, brothers? What? Tawheed. Come on, give me some details. You saying it an answer or a question for him? Is it Tawheed or Rububiyyah? Give it an answer. Don't say it in a question form. Say no, Tawheed or Rububiyyah. Don't say Tawheed or Rububiyyah. That's a question. Don't say the answer. Make the statement. Make the statement. Don't say it in the question. Tawheed or Rububiyyah? It's like you're asking. Make the statement. What's the statement? Mumtaz. So let's go over this ayat again. I want everyone to answer. Count how many times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned Tawheed al-Rububiyyah in this ayat. Count. Ayah number 60. Who's the one that created the heavens and the earth? Huh? Number 1. Sent down from the heavens provisions. Brought forth the plantation. To have the gardens that has delight to look at, delightful to look at. And it wasn't for you that you would bring it forth, bringing or making the trees grow. 5. Allah mentioned Tawheed Rububiyyah. How many times? 5 times. What was the end result? Is there any deity along with Allah? Uluhiyyah. Which category is that? Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. Allah mentioned that what? His actions, how many? 5 times. 5 examples. All to establish what, everyone? He deserves to be worshipped. How is it? I'm going to bring up an important point once I end it up. Then Allah says it again. This next ayah. Who's the one that made the earth stable ground? Huh? Which category Tawheed? Rububiyyah. And he put between them rivers. Huh? Then he also set and made the mountains as firm pegs. And he made between the 2 oceans a barrier. Is there any deity that deserves to be worshipped along with Allah? Which category Tawheed is that? Uluhiyyah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent 4 examples of Tawheed al-Rububiyyah in this ayah. To establish what? Huh? Uluhiyyah. Rather, they are people that make Allah equal along with the creation. You understand now? Who is the one that answers, the respond, the one facing adversity and hardship and stress? Huh? Which category of Tawheed is that, everyone? Rububiyyah. And he invokes him, because that's worship. And he removes the evil. Huh? Which category of Tawheed? Rububiyyah. And he makes you successors in the earth. Which category of Tawheed? Rububiyyah. Is there a deity along with Allah that deserves to be worshipped? Uluhiyyah. 3 times. Who is the one that guides you in the darkness of the land and the sea? Which category? He sends the wind, glad tidings, as a mercy for you. Is there a deity along with Allah? How high is Allah with the above with the associate with partners? Who is the one that can what? Create? Who created, brought things out of existence when it didn't exist? Then he will repeat it. Meaning Allah is going to bring the human beings back again to be judged. Which category? And he gives you sustenance from the heavens and earth. Is there a deity along with Allah? Give along your what? Give your evidence and proof in your argument if you're truthful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned Tawheed al-Rububiyyah so many times. This is to show that Tawheed al-Rububiyyah is what? What, everyone? It's mentioned in the Quran to establish what? Uluhiyyah. All these affairs are important. Why? And if you see this in the book of Allah, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned this pattern in so many ayats, to let you know how important it is to know these affairs. Why? If this is the most important of all matters, how can a person, I'm asking brothers and sisters, ask me and answer me this. So you see this is how Allah established this. And you'll find this all throughout the Quran. How in the world can you not see past a caller that never talks about this affair or never touches on it? Even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala establishes this affair in so many ayats in this manner, where he mentions Rububiyyah 4, 3, 5, 6 times, to let you know that what? He's the one that deserves to be worshipped. Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. إلا بالله. حول ولا قوة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمود الوسيلة الفضيلة وبعد مقام الذي وعدته. If you see this type of pattern mentioned all throughout the Quran, this manner of what we mentioned is mentioned all throughout the Quran. You'll find that Allah mentions 5 things that He does, or 4 things that He does in certain context, or 3 things in certain context, or 2 certain context, in order to bring you back to the most important point of why you as a human being is existing right now in this dunya. That's the ultimate reason why you've been put here. So I'm asking brothers and sisters who's listening, even online. For now, you go to a masjid and they will never talk about this. But you say you Salafi, or I wear an overhead abaya and I got niqab on. But you go to a masjid that doesn't support this affair. And it doesn't take a rocket science genius to study 20 years to know that a person that don't start with this matter, you know that they're upon error. And your jealousy for Tawheed would know that these people are not propagating in their masjid, but you still go there and support it. Knowing that these people are not calling to it. They're not educating the people upon it. They're not cultivating them upon it. Knowing that that type of call is going to be what? It's going to fail. Because we have heard from some of our brothers and sisters who sneak up there and they think we don't know. And you expose yourself by the social media because you have, for example, Masjid Allah under your Twitter or Masjid Allah under your Instagram. Masjid Allah, really? Mr. Niqabi or Miss Niqabi with the jilbab on? Masjid Allah? Do you understand Tawheed? Do you understand the Sunnah? These people don't talk about Tawheed at all. You go to their masajid. They may be, at the least, they'll just quote the word. They will never even touch this Kitaab At-Tawheed. They'll probably make isti'adha from it. Because a lot of them do that, especially the Sufiya. How in the world can you think that a caller that's not calling to this? And like I said, it doesn't take 20 years or 30 years of something that is the most important matter to every human being that Allah made it difficult to understand. Allah made it the easiest affair to understand and the easiest way that you can determine whether a person is upon truth or falsehood. Allah made it easy. You see, this message is not talking about the mannerisms of how to establish the ibadah of Allah, what's tawheed and what's shirk, what is it, how it comes in the different forms, how is it that people are falling into it today and connecting it with the groups that are falling into it, especially from the Sufis who commit shirk, especially from the deviant Muslims who are committing shirk, especially from the deviant sects that have ideologies that remove them from the fold of Islam. That Allah came as in the form of baby G from the nation of Islam and all this of a baby G of Allah being born and all these other affairs. You don't never hear them speaking out against it. You don't never hear them ever clarifying it. That this is polytheism. This will nullify Islam. If you die upon it, you'll be in hell forever. Not saying anything. You're going away from it. Everyone in this room could determine, like, hey, where's the call to clarifying truth and falsehood? Where is it? It doesn't take a rocket science genius to know that this call is wrong. I'm not listening and putting my ear to it. I don't care how many ayat and ahadith that he quotes. Because every caller of falsehood is going to bring something of the haqq with him to delude the people. What else are they going to come with? The Bible? Well, some of the callers do is so stupid they do come with the Bible. But the majority of them that you'll find in these days, Zakir Naik comes with the Bible. Zakir Naik, he brings the Bible. But at any rate, that's to let you know how stupid the deviant sects are these days in time. But at any rate, what we were saying is, what are they going to come with? They're going to come with something of the truth to delude you. Bring some ayat, bring some ahadith, bring some affairs that the people want to speak about, that some of the students are talking about and elaborating on, to try to get the crowd, to get some money, to get the people to come out. Islamic Family Center, that even sounds like a marketing strategy. Because I know that they're marketing strategists. They know how to market the people, and the Muslims fall for it every day. Let's talk about find something that the students are not, because the students of Salafis always bringing themselves, busy themselves with Aqidah, Tawheed. No, let's talk about something else they're not talking about. Knowing ultimately, if you're not touching on this matter, your da'wah is going to fail. I don't care if you talk about zina from the baby or the bed or not. If you're not calling to this affair and really deep rooting the people and how Allah deep rooted this affair in his book, in which you'll find ayat after ayat, saying Tawheed al-Rububiyyah 4, 5, 6 times. In order to establish that he is the one that needs to be worshipped, to give us the same pattern, to let us know the importance of that, to teach that to the people. Because that's the most important of affairs, because it's teaching the people the purpose of why they're created. And if the people realize the purpose of why they're created and the reason why they're staying away from fornication, the reason why they're staying away from zina, and the reason why they're not having kids, they're not supposed to have kids out of wedlock, and if they discover the reason of why they're doing it, then they'll refrain from stop doing it. But if you're not teaching it to them and clarifying it and connecting it, and connecting the dots to how the people who was upon polytheism of the past are falling into it today, not only with the people of Kufr, but also with the Muslims who are falling into it. And you are not clarifying that affair, you are the most ultimate person that have betrayed the trust of da'wah and the ilm. Not just the people of Kufr, the people who are saying that they're la ilaha illallah, because they're the most deceptive. Because the people say that they're Muslim. So you have to clarify it. There's no getting around it. Because the people are going to be fooled. Because they say, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. That is the reason why you'll find that we focus on that too. Not just mention the people of Kufr, the people who's also deviated in the methodology as far as in the fundamentals of the religion for the Muslims. Because you have to. There's no getting around it. And not just mentioning it generally. Saying, oh, the Khawarij believe this. The Khawarij believe that. The Murji'ah believe this. No, akhi, clarify how the people are falling into today. From the deviant sects of today. Because that's how the people truly benefit, when you tie the knots from the past to now. Don't mention it generally. The Khawarij believe this. The Murji'ah of the past believe this. Type. Clarify me the deviant sects of now who are falling into it. And you can't deny that there are not deviant sects who are falling into this matter of today. You don't deny that ISIS exists. You don't deny there are Muslims out there that say, yeah, akhi, my actions is of the heart. I mean, I don't got to come to Jumu'ah because my Islam is here. That's the ideologies of the Murji'ah. Of course we know. And also there are callers that are calling to this methodology of today. Don't just mention the belief. You have to mention the caller too. You have to. For all these are things, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, that we said, will give you and allow you, give you insight to know whether a caller is upon what? Falsehood or not. Because Allah Ta'ala, we are following, especially the du'at and the callers, are following the pattern of the book of Allah. Exactly. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned this in so many ayat. We talked about the ayat Surah Yunus. Allah Ta'ala mentioned Kitaab, Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. At the time about 7, one ayat he mentioned about 7 times. 7 or 8 times. Of Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. Who sends you name? Who owns the heavens and the earth? Who sends down the rain? Who will bring the life at the death and the death at the life? Who's the one that can administrate the affairs? Who's the one that can guide to the truth? Who's the one that can lead person astray? That's all the actions of Allah. Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. All to establish what? Uluhiyyah. That he deserves to be worshipped. And all of that is refutations against what? From those from the deviant sects of the Muslims who deviated in these methodologies and make a dua to the dead, or those who they claim are righteous, and some of them truly are righteous. But it's all still, at the end of the day, polytheism. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So any caller that you see ignoring this affair, he's not clarifying it. And not only just clarifying it, but mentioning it generally how they fell into it of the past. But not connecting the dots of it, of how people are falling into it of today, whether it be from the non-Muslims or the Muslims falling into it. Then they are not being a person that has what? Carried out their trust. As far as clarifying it to the people in which the manner, how they can tie the dots of how it's affecting their lives daily. If you're not doing that, then you are not teaching the people or cultivating them properly. The people need to be taught of how the people fell into it in the past and how you connected to how it's affecting their daily lives of today. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? طيب, we'll stop here. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Any questions about the lesson, anyone?